Today, we are unpacking a really profound, yet often entirely invisible family dynamic: the quiet, heavy reality of the firstborn daughter. Whether you're super interested in psychology or, hey, maybe you happen to be an eldest daughter yourself, you probably know the exact feeling we're about to explore. It's like this invisible weight handed over before you were even fully grown. Let's look at exactly how the sources break this all down. You know, the source material opens with this incredibly powerful observation. There is a kind of tired that honestly has absolutely nothing to do with sleep. It lives in the shoulders of a woman who was just never really allowed to be small. And if you ask her when it started, well, she probably can't pinpoint a specific day, because it didn't just start. It was simply there from the exact moment a second, smaller voice entered the house. That moment when every eye turned to her and silently said, "You're the big one now."
Section 1. The Science of Birth Order. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this because psychologists have actually been fascinated by this dynamic for well over a century. Alfred Adler, one of the founders of modern psychology, noted that a firstborn's world is quietly shattered when a sibling arrives. I mean, think about it. One day, you are the absolute center of your parents' universe. You're like a tiny monarch. And the next, you're not only asked to share that universe, you're often recruited to help run the whole shebang. Adler actually coined this the dethronement of the firstborn. It's a huge loss of position, and kids feel that shift just as deeply as any physical loss. So, what does this all mean for a kid's personality? Well, researcher Frank Sulloway found that firstborns are disproportionately likely to develop a very specific set of traits. They become the responsible, conscientious, achievement-driven rule followers. And sure, birth order science is always debated academically, but if you ask literally any therapist who works with adult women, they'll tell you this exact pattern of hyper-responsibility walks right into their office every single day. Section 2. The parentification track. So here is the core mechanism behind all that exhaustion: parentification. It's a clinical term that therapists are using more and more these days, and it happens when a child is handed adult emotional or practical responsibilities long before their little brain is developmentally ready to actually process them. Essentially, a girl's childhood is prematurely converted into a management role. But here is where a really fascinating, completely invisible gender discrepancy kicks in. For sons, parentification might look pretty overt, like being explicitly told to be the man of the house or protect the family. But for firstborn daughters, the expectations are far more covert. She isn't given a loud command. No, she is handed an entirely invisible job description. Just think about the cumulative weight of these silent responsibilities. Watch your siblings. Read the room before your parents even walk in. Don't add to the noise. Hold your own feelings in because there's a baby crying and an exhausted mom who just can't manage one more thing right now. By the time this daughter is 10 years old, she isn't really a kid anymore. She's essentially a small manager, acting as a translator for her parents' stress and a little emotional thermostat for the entire house. Psychologist Dr. Kay Kripke offers this amazing insight into how this dynamic really gets locked in. She points out that these girls are trained not by punishment, but by quiet reward. It's that subtle praise she gets every single time she swallows her own needs to meet someone else's. And through that continuous positive reinforcement, she learns, literally cell by cell, that her absolute worth is measured entirely by her usefulness to others. Section 3. Eldest daughter syndrome. And that brings us to the viral, non-clinical term that has finally given thousands of women a language for this lived experience: eldest daughter syndrome. In adulthood, the symptoms we see in therapy rooms are heartbreakingly consistent. We're talking chronic guilt whenever she tries to rest, a profound inability to ask for help because, well, she was always the provider, a nervous system that literally never fully relaxes because back in childhood, relaxing usually meant something might fall apart. And underneath it all, a quiet, aching loneliness. She took care of everyone, but nobody really thought to ask who was taking care of her. To put that into perspective, let's map out how this builds over a lifetime through a composite character based on the sources. We'll call her Amara. At age 7, Amara is warming bottles for her sibling. By 12, she's forging signatures on her own permission slips because her mom works the night shift. By 25, she feels this sudden flash of panic when she does something just for herself. Her nervous system was trained, patiently and entirely unintentionally, to treat her own joy as a resource that rightfully belonged to someone else. Section 4. The unspoken cost. When you really dig into the sources, you hit the hardest part of this conversation, because the parents who raised these daughters, they usually did the absolute best they could. Many were firstborn daughters themselves.
Many were simply drowning, whether financially or emotionally, and they instinctively reached for the nearest steady hands. It just so happened those hands belonged to a child. And while understanding that reality is absolutely crucial, we have to recognize that a parent's reliance on a child doesn't magically erase the lasting cost to that child. So why does this matter so much? It all goes back to attachment theory. Researchers show that kids who constantly manage others' emotions rather than having their own met grow into adults who are extraordinary caretakers on the outside, but quietly starving emotionally on the inside. They give fluently, sure, but they receive with visible discomfort. They've been conditioned to believe that love isn't offered freely. To them, it's a transaction. It's a wage earned through relentless service.
And that right there is the core wound. Underneath the straight A report cards, the big promotions, and the sterling reputation of being the responsible one. You see, the eldest daughter lives in a world that constantly asks her, "What did you do today? What did you achieve?" But underneath that highly capable adult exterior is a little girl still desperately waiting for someone to just stop, look at her, and ask, "Are you okay?" Section 5, the path to healing. Now, as heavy as this burden is, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The sources outline an incredibly empowering second half to the story. Therapists describe a highly recognizable breakthrough moment in the therapy room. It usually happens when someone finally looks at this daughter and says, "You didn't have to earn love, you were supposed to be given it." And it's not a collapse, it's a profound, overwhelming relief. It's the sudden realization of her right to simply exist, entirely outside of her service to others.
Psychologists call this reparenting, and it is a slow, definitely non-linear process of gently teaching her nervous system that her own needs are actually allowed to exist. She's unlearning decades of deep conditioning to realize that her desires are perfectly allowed to take up space in the room, without needing some logical justification or grand purpose attached to them.
So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it means taking real, actionable steps to relinquish that burden. It means saying no to a request without automatically drafting a 3-paragraph apology text to go with it. It means letting someone else host the dinner, just once. Crying without frantically scanning the room to see if your sadness is inconveniencing anyone. And treating rest not as a reward you have to qualify for, but as a fundamental right. Women who do this work say it feels exactly like finally putting down a heavy, forgotten bag they've been carrying their entire lives.
Which leaves us with this powerful final thought from the sources. If you are the one who grew up fast because someone had to, remember this. Everything you carry, the relentless responsibility, the constant readiness, was handed to you before you were tall enough to say no. But it is never too late to hand some of it back. The question is, once you finally put that heavy bag down, what will you do with the weight you hand back? Thanks so much for exploring this deep dive with me.